Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. So it literally took me, a few days to change the plan that I set out in my last video in terms of what project is happening when. We're pretty much sticking to that still, but the aluminum top Stratocaster, I was going to try to install 2 conductor humbuckers in, and then when I went to look at the insanity that is the Gun Street wiring shop kit that I got sent to wire it all up, I realized I can't do that. I need 4 conductor pickups, so I've got to wait for those to come in. So rather than screwing with the entire system, I'm just going to interrupt myself a little bit and get back to work on this crazy Chinese guitar kit that we talked about, this hollow body, because a lot of you have asked me about it. Some of you have asked me if I've thrown it across the room or burned it yet. Others have asked if it's done. I hate this thing. Anyway, yeah, we're continuing this. So if you've been following since the beginning, you'll know there are a number of problems with this. First of all, the bridge hardware isn't really right for this type of guitar. The laminated flame maple top has myriad issues with it, including a pretty obnoxious glue line that I wasn't really able to deal with before painting it. So you can kind of still see that, even though I've moved to more of a semi-transparent finish. It actually looks pretty interesting. Not great, but interesting. And you can tell that it's shiny now. I've sealed it with some clear coat in the interim since the last time that I filmed anything. I've also sealed the back now, which has this transparent black finish. That was just a thin, normal maple veneer. So that's looking pretty semi-gloss at this point. What to tell you? I don't really have a plan. I'm just going to kind of mess around and try to turn this into a guitar. I don't know if it will really work, and here's why. Not only is this thing garbage and full of issues, but the neck has a bunch of problems. I will need to do some work on it, because if I were to slide my hand down the side right now, I'd end up bleeding a lot. These are brutally sharp, but hey, that's not a big deal. That's easy to fix. The truss rod cavity, I'm gonna have to file or something. Like I can't get anything in there. I don't know if they just like put this thing in a clamp and shot a sniper rifle at it or what, but this is not okay. So I gotta fix that. I'll do something to the headstock probably today. And there's like some cracking right in the back here, just a thin crack. So obviously they shaved that down, I think too far. Like I think the truss rod is like right there. When I put tension on this, the scarf joint's not bad. When I put tension on this, I think it'll hold up. I think this can be a playable guitar, just not a good guitar. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna finish it up. So today, I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try and do a little bit of paint work. I'm gonna sand this sealed thing back, do something stupid to it to make it look even more ridiculous. I'm gonna do a little bit of painting on the headstock, and then I might, if I'm feeling ambitious, try and get the neck glued in. And at some point we'll hit you with another update here. Sorry, and finish this thing off, because I have been saying that I will finish it. So we're gonna finish it. That's gonna happen. So now that you've seen how incredibly excited I am to get back to work on this kit, let's do that. I'm gonna fire up the compressor. It's gonna get real loud, so we'll end the talking in person here. I'll move into voiceover, and yeah, let's get to it. And don't worry, we are gonna get that aluminum top Strat finished up next, and you'll get to hear hopefully how it sounds, assuming I can get everything to work the way that it should. We got an interesting tutorial coming up on staining basswood, which is a question I also get a lot. Yeah, you know the deal. Tons of projects. Let's get after it. So guys, the comedy of errors on this one continues. First of all, this is my second time recording this voiceover, because the first time my microphone didn't connect properly. And second, I lost some of the footage here. Go figure. So we've still got enough for me to show you most of what happened, but at the end of the video here, I'll be explaining kind of what was missed. For some reason, the footage just didn't work. Incredible, really. I'm pretty sure this project exists solely to make me lose my mind. In any event, this part's pretty straightforward. What I'm doing here is I'm sanding that sealer. So what I've got on the front and sides is a catalyzed polyurethane I've got something else on the back just because I did them in 2 different steps. But I really wanted to make sure I sealed up the front with something solid on this, because something on this guitar needs to be solid, right? So I'm sanding that, and what I'm using here is a Dynabrade dual action pneumatic sander and a Mirka Abralon sanding pad. It's the 1000 grit one. I use 1000, 2000, and 4000 usually for polishing, but you never go higher than 1000 grit when you're sanding sealer. When you're going to be painting over top, you need it to be rough enough to actually paint over. You need it to be rough enough for the paint to stick to. So 1000 is the maximum, in my opinion. Usually I use 600 or 800, but I wanted this more flexible pad for this particular thing. So between the foam backing on the Mirka pad and the flexibility on the sander, I'm able to get around all the curves on this thing nicely and not have to worry too much about accidentally changing a contour or sanding through my sealer in one spot or anything like that. Having that added flexibility is nice for this one. Now, the reason, for those who don't know, the reason that I dropped the brand names in there is because I get asked about them a lot. People are always asking me what I'm using here. So that's what I use for this one. As most of you know, if you are looking for any of this stuff, take a look at the Amazon link in the description. It's in there, so you can get Dynabrade sander and the Mirka pads through there if you want. If you do use those links, it helps me out, so I'll leave that one up to you. When you're doing this, be careful on these carved tops. There is a little bit more complexity. As you get used to it, it's not particularly difficult to sand these, but it isn't a flat surface, right? So you need to be careful about that. You need to be aware of it when you're sanding, and just go slow. Don't push too hard. Use the curves on your DA sander to kind of match up with the curves on the body, and you should be fine. If you're sanding by hand, use your palm. You don't really do a sanding block for these, but you can get a flexible sanding block. Standard sanding block isn't really helpful. Try not to use your fingers too much. They can leave grooves. So here, well, that's a tape line instead of a glue line. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so I use that piece of tape because I want a stripe down the middle. I wanted to make sure that that was perfectly centered and that I use that to get a nice even width. So I'm doing, a 3/4 inch strip down the center. And yeah, I've given up on trying to get rid of the glue line using transparency or any other method, and I'm simply going to paint over it. That's it. It's broken my spirit. So this is what we're doing. We're painting right over it with an opaque color, and the most opaque color, in fact, black. We're gonna paint it black. So tell Mick Jagger. Anyway, I've used that stripe of tape to set out my line, and now I'm reverse masking it by taping everything else. And then I'm gonna take that strip of tape off of there, and that'll be it. I'll have my line ready to go, taped off. I can't just put one strip of tape on either side because I'm spraying, so I need a little bit more masked off area so I don't get overspray all over the place. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to widen that out. If you're a relatively novice painter or relatively new to using spray cans or whatever method you're using here, I recommend you mask off the entire surface. Leaving those exposed edges like I'm doing right now on the guitar is a risky move if you don't have full control over your paint. So I don't recommend doing it that way. I just didn't want to waste tape, and I'm fairly confident in my spray aim, so here's what I'm doing. At the bottom there, you saw me put one piece of tape. That was just to mask off the binding because I want that to stay. I don't want to paint over just a chunk of it like that. And here I've got to just change my angle ever so slightly to make sure everything looks even. And there we go. Now I can go ahead and shoot my paint at it. Now, after I sanded this, I did clean it off camera. Make sure you're taking that step, clean off the dust and everything. Wax and grease remover is your best option for that. You need a clean surface to paint over. I'm just hitting this with some semi-gloss black just because it was handy. Semi-gloss was what I had near me. As you can tell, I'm kind of making this up as I go along. So I should stress this. This is not a tutorial. This, although I am telling you what I'm doing and why, is not a tutorial. Do not follow this. This project is ridiculous. So you can take from it what you will, but it's not designed for you to rely on it for your projects. It's for entertainment purposes only, and it should be entertaining watching me fumble around like an idiot with this thing. Even like here, my patience is so low that I'm now taping off the neck joint so I can do my next bit of spraying without letting the paint dry. So that strip of black is still wet. Good thing I'm not touching it. Sometimes unmasking while your paint is still wet is a good idea. If you're careful, it helps avoid any risk of chip away or tear away from dry paint. But, it's still risky because you could screw it up by touching it. Now this is where things get fun. I'm coming in with some glitter paint here, and not red glitter paint like you might think. I'm using a complementary color here. This is gold. I do have red, but I thought that this would look better. And I was actually pretty happy with the choice afterward. So I've gone over the binding from the face here, over the red, and over the black to give this whole face a glitter appearance. And then I'm coming in with Rust-Oleum's glitter sealer over top of that. The glitter sealer is a clear coat. Okay, so a lot of people have told me in response to a recent video I did about how to build up a thick clear coat that they don't use this particular product, or they haven't, because they thought that it had glitter in it. That's not the case. This stuff is designed to go over the glitter. The idea is it builds up thicker than your average clear coat so that it can bury that texture from the glitter. So it's a good product. It works well for this sort of thing. And you'll see the results I got here from just my first coat while it's still wet in a second. I think that looks pretty good. The glitter has gone on nice. The surface still needs some work. It's a really good thing I sealed it beforehand, because that flame maple, of course, has some open pores, and it's a little tougher to get a smooth surface on it. But yeah, I think that turned out pretty well for a first coat of clear, and as we build up more, it'll look even better. And we'll get rid of some of that other texture in there from both the little bit that's left from the maple, but more specifically the stuff coming from that glitter. I've also got to do the headstock here, and once again, this is not a tutorial, but anyway, I'm taping off where I pulled off the nut. I did remove that because it wasn't set properly when I got this guitar kit, so I took it off. I'll have to glue it back on at some point. I had actually considered an upgrade one, but well, that's not happening now. Anyway, so I taped that off, and then I just run some wider painter's tape over at the top here to cover it up. Once again, you should be taping off the entire surface if you're not confident in your spraying, but I'm just spraying the face of the headstock here. The rest of the neck will be done in my favorite finish for necks, which is Mohawk's Modified Tung Oil. It just feels better, and yeah, it looks nice. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm sanding the face of the headstock here with some 400 grit, and then I'm going to paint it red. And what I did, and did not catch on camera, was I came in after, while my second coat of red, which you also don't see, was still wet, and I sprayed some of that gold glitter in there. And then I also went in and glued the neck on. So that is all done, and when we come in for our next video, that will be dealt with. Here I'm going in for my second of what ends up being 3 coats of this glitter sealer. I'm going to let that dry fully, sand it, and then come in probably with another 3. And that's it. I have slowed the footage for this last coat of clear down to 50%, so I have time to say thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. And remember to subscribe so you can see how this crazy project turns out and how my actual good projects turn out. Watch those. They're better. Thanks again, guys, for watching and for your patience on this one. I appreciate it. Have a good one, and I will see you next time.